guys, this is Mr. H. This is problem number 5 from the quadratic formula playlist. I wanted to include this one because I wanted to show you, even if you have word problems with quadratic equations in it, you're going, and if they ask you to do it algebraically, you got to use the quadratic formula in order to get the full credit. So let's read this question, and I want to show you exactly how you should do it. First thing it says is, if you drop an apple, or when an apple is dropped from a tower that's 256 feet high, the function h of t equals to negative 16 t squared plus 256 models the height of the apple in feet after t seconds. So we got feet and seconds. Now, real quick, I know this is not what the question is asking, but this is the height that it was, that the apple was initially thrown from. So that's the y-intercept. It's also the initial height. So sometimes they like these questions where they'll ask you, what does that constant number represent? And you just say, oh, that's the initial height that the apple or the ball or whatever you're dropping or throwing is thrown from. All right. Now it says determine algebraically the number of seconds it takes to hit the ground. Now, so I'm going to draw a real quick drawing because I need you guys to see something. So here's going to be the quadratic. Okay, and this is the initial height of 256. Now, we don't want this 0 because this is going to be negative. This is, by the way, so this is, the domain is time and seconds. Okay, so we don't want to go over here. This is 0. We don't want any 0 over here. We just want this one right here. So when you do this kind of word problem, you can't have just any numbers. The domain cannot be negative. You can't have a negative time. So you got to be looking at the positive 0 or the positive solution. So let's go. I'm going to keep this here. But here's what this is the other thing you have to do. When it hits the ground, that's where it's equal to 0. So you're going to say a negative 16 t squared plus 256 equals 0. You got to do this. You got to. All right. So now this means that A, let me see, A is going to be a negative 16. Now notice there is no x term. There is no bx term. So you would say B is equal to 0 because there's nothing there. And then the constant is equal to 256. So here's our formula. I'm going to put it down here. Well, I'll put it right here. So it's going to be T. I'm going to use black. It's actually, let me do one thing here. Let me make this a little smaller because I'm running out of space. I'm going to make this, put this over here. So that drawing, you can still see it because I want you to keep that in mind. But what we're doing here is going to be T equals, and then we're going to have plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC over 2A. So let's go. So B is going to be, this is going to be a negative, whoops, let's make it blue. It's going to be a negative 0. So basically that term is just going to drop out. And then inside here, we're going to have 0 squared minus 4 times a negative 16, because that's the A term. And then that's going to be multiplied times 256. Let me make sure you guys see that this should all be under the square root. And then down in the denominator, we're just going to have 2 times a negative 16, right? And then, again, we're not going to actually use the formula. We're just going to end solve. So let's do that. So let's go get the calculator and let's do it. So we're going to do menu 31 and I'll use T. So this will be a negative 16 T squared. Now, if you want to, you can use X for this. And then it's going to be plus 256 equals 0. and then it's going to be comma t. And now I just press enter. Now I got 4. So I would go over here and I would say t equals 4 seconds. Now, yeah, that's the answer. It's a positive, but I want to show you, you got to be careful. I'm just going to show you that there's another solution, and I'm going to start this one at a negative 100, and boom, you see it's a negative 4. We don't want this one. I'm just showing you that there is another 0, but in this word problem, we only want positive. Because we can't have negative time. We can't have a negative 4 seconds. I hope that's clear. I hope you understand what we're doing. We don't want this one over here. This was a negative 4. This one was 4. We don't want this one. We want this one. So that would be our answer. Please do not do a negative 4 seconds. Please do not do that, because that would be wrong. Okay, that's it. I hope you got it. I hope it's good. All right, so let's post this. Let's go stop the